Hello there everyone and welcome back. We have finally reached full release of Battlefleet Gothic Armada 2 and I am itching to show off the Drukhari a little bit. For in all honesty, I had a really difficult time with this fleet during the beta, mainly because of course due to the fact that the Wraithbone shift likes to constantly bug out on you. On top of a little bit of other stuff there, I had weird interactions where it seems like fighter squadrons were following after my stealth ships almost exclusively in some periods. I don't know what's going on. There was some weird stuff trying to do this. Never mind the fact that I was also trying to experiment with a different kind of playstyle than what you would... that's not what I want. A different type of playstyle there. I don't think it's the Lance variant I want, but what I was aiming for originally when I started up with the Drukhari was to go with the Lances and strictly focus on sniping down a bunch of frigates. Blind my opponents, as it were, was the initial route I went, but it became a massive headache. A really frustrating time just because of what I already said, the bugging out on the Wraithbone shift. This playstyle kind of encourages me to play really drawn out and really cautious, and chip my opponent down little by little. And it felt like it had a lot of promise. It kills the frigates quickly, outside of maybe anything that has 75, well not 75, but 83 armor, that would be Necrons, and as I found out with the Space Marine frigates, good god. It is something I definitely will want to come back to now that we're actually at the live release there in hell. The Baleful Gaze, I believe. No, that's the Impaler. Which one is the carrier? There we go. The Burning Scale was supposedly bugged when I played up against them with the Adeptus Mechanicus, which allowed them to have 3 launch bays as opposed to 1. So I think it's a testament to at least the strategy I utilized against them. Because let's be honest, I felt like I cost myself the match with a little bit of those silly plays, blowing up my Arc Mechanicus there for one thing, as well as a lot of little minor nuances. I feel like I lost that more than a big little gimmick or not some weird bug that allowed a light cruiser of all things to be allowed to field as many bombers as, say, the battleship here. Yeah, that's right. It has 3 launch bays as well, so that kind of emphasizes my point that probably was not intentional. Nonetheless, what I ultimately did decide to go for is the torpedo route instead. Good old torpedoes as I'm accustomed to, as I'm used to, and it's definitely a lot more satisfying. For if my Wraithbone shift does bug out, at least I can commit to a close range engagement by threatening to obliterate anything that stays close to me. It has that potential, and it works well when it does hit. Although, it remains to be seen how it'll function when opponents start getting more skilled at this game and start looking for those torpedoes. Never mind the fact that for Armada 2, as opposed to how loud the torpedoes were in Armada 1, they're really subtle and really hard to tell. Unless you're probably zoomed in maybe, then you can hear them properly. Although that would not be a recommended strategy for when you're trying to micromanage an entire fleet, for crying out loud. So time will tell how effective and practical these torpedoes are, especially for something as glass cannons as the Drukhari, since after all, they have 50 armor, they have the same armor as the Corsairs, they're just lacking the hollow field, which is pretty significant to note. But otherwise, let's have a quick look at the skills there. The Shadow Field Overload, this is kind of similar to the Hollow Field Overload, just max charge for 10 seconds. The Beacon Probe, keep in mind, does it say on here? Yeah, it says it deploys. I'm pretty certain that's not the case, although, to be honest, I haven't tried these at all during the release, so it may have been fixed, or it may still be a unique trait to Eldar where their beacons do not deploy, they just go across the map. We have Venom Shard Bombs in case you ever want to go the boarding route, and there's a lot of boarding potential with the Impaler Assault Module. Actually, let me double check quickly. It only showed in-game, does it show here? No, it doesn't. From what I recall, these things are able to deal, 8 crew damage, I think, if they board. It's only a 1 charge use as opposed to like the regular carrier assault crafts, which the Drukhari are only ones of the Eldar factions able to have assault ships. So that is very practical, of course, for boarding, never mind the fact that they have a whopping 70% critical hit chance right off the bat. So long as they're at full crew capacity, that would be the exception there. So when you upgrade the Impaler to potentially have 80% critical hit chance to cripple something, it's likely succeed, although I would argue this may not be very practical for that same reason, since you already got such a ridiculous critical hit chance, but otherwise, the Venom Shard Bombs accommodate you if you want to go that route with the boarding. We got the Disruption Bomb, which each shield, and of course the usual stuff, Stasis Bombs there. What we got is a different version of the Maelstrom, at least for Drukhari, in that its focus is not so much on doing damage, it's just to slow down all the targets there. The effect is immediate, as opposed to the charge up time of the stasis bomb, and best of all, this is a subtle fact that I'm going to be taking full advantage of, it does not slow projectiles. So I slow down the target, and then I'm opening up an opportunity to just unload a huge volley of torpedoes on them, provided the ship is not able to take evasive maneuvers the best, since I'm pretty certain they can still rotate quickly. It just says their current speed. It doesn't say anything about rotation speed, so that's something to be mindful of. Wraithbone reinforcement, I questioned this quite a bit when I did the Ashuriani. It didn't seem very practical since they already had really good armor, but for the Drukhari, with me wanting to do my torpedo runs, this could have some use. I seriously am questioning long term if I want to stick with this, but it seems useful for what I have in mind. Otherwise, I may just go all out on the slowing them down and allow me to either evade or get the perfect attack run I wish. And then otherwise, micro warp jump, that's definitely useful, especially if you have a really key ship you're relying on to win you through the day there. Especially if I have to remind you, it's based on vision of any of your ships there, so you can teleport anywhere you wish so long as you already have a ship within range. Alright, otherwise we got the usual upgrades there. Polarized Field, Void Predator for the accuracy penalty, the King Crude batteries for additional rapid fire, and now that reload is fixed, I'm hoping anyway, this will be really damn potent, especially for the Drukhari. Although I'm pretty certain the lock-on trait only works for the Lances, there is a factor that allows them double the damage. Yeah, it's only on lock-on, which the Drukhari, will have access to extended range on lock-on. It's not like the other two Eldar factions, which it gives them 270 degrees with their macro cannons. In the case of the Drukhari, they have the longest range potential, which makes them exceptionally dangerous with that shadow field. Full charge, constant stealth for all your ships. Otherwise, what else we have? Extended range. I already showed the Witch Cult there. Splinter torpedoes. For once, we have an upgrade that is outside the Imperial Navy that improves your torpedoes. Well, technically that's not true, I suppose, since you have to get boarding torpedoes for the Space Marines. But I feel like that's kind of a necessity as opposed to an actual upgrade when you play the Space Marines in Armada 1. In this case, it gives you an enhancement to your torpedoes. And I gotta say, 5 seconds really goes by quickly when you're talking about how the pacing of Armada 2, good god, it feels like you have no time to take advantage of this unless you're certain the torpedoes are going to hit, in which case you have your second attack run planned out. And with the 50 armor, it seems really weird to give them ramming blades, but from what I see here, the description, okay, it doesn't imply during collision, so that's a shame. Before the Drukhari had 67 armor, there was some practicality for these ramming blades. They're kind of obsolete at this point, I want to argue, since you're going to do so much more damage to yourself as opposed to the enemy, unless you're hitting a frigate, maybe. Spear Crystal Lens, extra shield damage and all that, but we have Blessing of Fall, and that's the armor-piercing weaponry. Sadly, I do not have this unlocked, and even then, well, I probably would actually utilize them since I'm using torpedoes and like the Scythe missiles, the macro cannons, so this would actually be pretty handy. I don't quite have it unlocked. I rapid fired my way to leveling up for the Wraithbone reinforcement, but I didn't quite get this yet, which I probably could have to be fair, since the release wiped all progress as far as multiplayer leveling. And then otherwise, the last skill, interestingly enough, a massive bravery bonus or loyalty bonus to all your fleets, so long as they haven't lost a handful of crew or troops during the process. And the reason this is significant is since the Drukhari have a penalty to their loyalty, this basically negates that completely and then makes them on par to the Ashuriani, which makes them pretty damn durable if you're expecting to take a lot of hits there or trying to get in their face more often than not. So it remains to be seen if this is encouraged, because again, Drukhari are very glass candy at this point with their 50 armor. Maybe with the ramming blades and all this you could get away with this more, as you're encouraged to get more in the fray with heavier armor, but that's not the case anymore, I would argue. But otherwise, what's my fleet actually going to be? It's like a single battleship, 2 cruisers, and 2 light cruisers, all of which have torpedoes. And I even have 2 frigates there, as weird as it may seem, but it's good for what I have in mind. I like to try and snipe as many frigates as I can in the early game, when my opponents spread out, and then kind of slowly blind them and negate the potential their scanners can have on me. And so far it's been working pretty well, but that was then. Let's see how the actual releases work now that we have a lot more potentially new players to go up against. Never mind the fact that everyone's playing the campaign anyway, aside from maybe some of the hardcore players. Alright, we're gonna have ourselves a classic match against the Imperial Navy. This ought to be fun, especially if I do my execution properly. For the Imperial Navy want to have their broadside facing me to maximize their damage potential, and at the same time, that's kind of what I want. It's just a matter of making sure I'm not screwed over by some lucky critical hits or anything that could really hurt their, like all the macro cannons hitting me, which thankfully the Wraithbone shift and false maneuver do help to a limited extent and allow me to dodge those if I execute it properly. Although, really, in truth, as is to be no one's surprise, I would want to use that to kind of make my escape, but it's pretty useful to do like a dive in there, catch them completely off guard with the torpedoes too, when they have less time to prepare for and they probably don't expect it. That's assuming, well, if I do it long enough there, like I said already, as players get more used to Armada 2 and how it works, I imagine me diving in there is kind of a big giveaway that I want to do a torpedo run on them. Since, as I hinted before, they are kind of quiet unless you're kind of zoomed in, I believe, which doesn't really help me in any regard if I were to do that myself. So otherwise, what do I want to do? I might as well try and grab these 3 points here. I'm wondering if I want to send 2 of these cruisers over on the right, because I can easily grab this one here. That might work better for me since the one there is on their point, and if my opponent has a mission dissipator, I may have to deal with some light cruisers. Frigates I would happily deal with, but I don't think I can deal with light cruisers or anything, assuming my opponent has the emission dissipators. Otherwise, let's get this going and play the assault run, or was it? Play your cloak and dagger type of strategy. In all honesty, it really is inconvenient trying to capture these points since you have to stand still, or at least stay within the circle to capture it, which can be problematic for your stealth. Not as a big deal, mind you, but what I try to do, as I'm getting used to it, hell, I forgot to boost, didn't I? So, let's fix that up. But trust, if you have the micromanagement for it, I would recommend trying to keep your ship circle around, so at least you can keep them guessing to a limited extent if I only have 1 ship in here or 2. But ultimately, it is kind of pointless to do this. There's not really much reason for it, aside for that little nuance if you want to benefit from complete stealth for your fleet. It has its uses there, but so far I think I'm going to worry about grabbing these 2 points, or 3 points here. And what that does for me is if any frigates try and grab these points, I'll get to see them without the need of my frigates and just murder them. It will be glorious, it'll be helpful, and let's hopefully I can grab this point really quickly. Just another turnaround while I do it. Okay, that's good. Now, I have to be prepared for a frigate of some kind, which is what my battleship's going to be for, and hopefully these 2 cruisers can join in. They might be in range, especially with lock-on about to become available. Moment of truth, though. Oh, let's see, nothing was detected, so I'm good in that regard. And we captured a point here. And I like to say that was pretty good, just making sure everything stayed hidden. It can be a lot trickier than it seems, especially when I have to worry about potential frigate skirmishes really early on. But otherwise, we know there is a frigate, because we saw it happen, and there's 2 of them. There's 2 points spawning, or 2 scanners just got activated. Now, are we in range for everything? Yeah, that was not what I wanted to burn retros. That probably took a little bit more damage than necessary, but ideally, none of my main ships got detected just yet. And the reason I have the reload to start off is it helps with my Wraithbone ship cooldown some. Probably not the most practical use. Well, the little nuance is kind of warranted and really useful. And that was a bad idea. I gotta remember, false maneuver does give me allow me to be briefly spotted. But let's spread out the fleet, minimize the effectiveness of the scanner, and ideally, deal with this cruiser, this Grand Cruiser in the middle here. Do I want to go for a torpedo run now? This is a really tempting target, I'm not gonna lie. It is in the middle of everything, and it's perfect for said torpedo run. And I could lock on. Now, make sure oh, I fired torpedoes prematurely. This is still looking like a very damn good effective run, though. I just wasted more torpedoes than I would have liked in that exchange. And that's gonna burn, and that will be pretty much dead. Ooh, thankfully, we dodged the torpedo salvo that was sent our way. Kill the frigate, kill the light cruiser as an added bonus. And also, let's get my frigates on the move. You are gonna try and ram me, maybe? This is the huge benefit of having these beacons ahead of time, because at least that way, you can know when your opponent is trying to grab them. You just gotta position yourself properly to make the most of it. So let's get ourselves ready to deal with these things. And even my frigates have torpedoes too, so that's pretty useful in this regard. That may have been a waste of torpedoes. They're probably not going to hit to my liking. Or at least one might hit. Just not very good torpedo run. Do we kill this thing off? Pretty damn close to it. Now let's just have those cruisers finish off. And I really want these cruisers or frigates to die. And I probably should have done boarding. That would have derelict the ship right away. Otherwise, this is looking promising. I just need reinforcements to support these ships. And you're a mutiny and you're burning to death, so I want to say you're about to die. I want to say you're dead. I'll have to check up on that in a moment to be sure.
The enemy has seized a strategic
And more
area.
torpedoes. Perfectly dodged. I can be happy with that result. They did capture a point, but let's make it not worth it. Simply put, let's not make it worth the effort for them. And there's another torpedo salvo. One salvo, the frigate missed. I didn't really effectively check the best. But this should be... Yeah, come on, stand still for me. One hit's all I need, perfect. That should burn. Splinter torpedo enables that really nicely, even for like a light cruiser that could have dodged that with a little bit of awareness. So I'm really happy with its effectiveness. You just gotta be on point, since you only got 5 seconds to take full advantage of that slow. Otherwise, this should be the last frigate. Well, I'm wrong, there may be one more up top there I'm gonna have to keep an eye on. And I am gonna take a little bit of asteroid damage, but it's better than the alternative, which is these torpedoes. Although, really, just my point defense is already dealing with them nicely. And we are losing the point over there too, but we're in good position. We did a lot of damage. I just gotta soften up and find ourselves a weak link here.
The enemy has seized
And I'm hoping this is a frigate, because then my frigate should be able to theoretically deal with it. They do have torpedoes, so I gotta pressure my opponent to kind of make them ignore what my fleet's up to. Yep, it is a frigate. So distract them with this fleet, so that way they don't pay attention this frigate's about to die. Hopefully. That was probably not as effective as I wanted, because one of those torpedoes are going to miss. And we got ourselves a nice isolated target. I'm fine with this. I just gotta stop rebelling. Now, I don't have my boost available, so this is going to be a little bit dangerous.
The enemy has accumulated 25% strategic.
But we do have a mutiny, interestingly enough, but that's because I destroyed their flagship, didn't I? Oh, wow. I didn't even need a torpedo run there. I am messing up on control a tiny bit, but... yeah, so far it's going really damn well for me. We just gotta clean up this mess. And the Grand Cruisers are like a perfect target to go after, since they don't have the 83 armor on the prow, so I can attack them at any angle and do potentially full damage to them. But in this case, there's no Grand Cruisers, is there? I want to board, you're not doing it there. That's a little bit unfortunate, but we got a mutiny. Let's see if we can kill this thing off. I'm gonna wait until it potentially cancels. Oh, the deck's gone. You're pretty much out of the equation. This is over. Yeah, I can hear the torpedoes. It's just very damn subtle, though. You really need to be paying attention. And with all the star cans and our weaponry going off, it's a little tricky to do. So I don't fault people for complaining, at least not knowing the torpedoes are coming, since that's like a main indicator to know when to dodge in a hurry. So hopefully Tyndall's can maybe, in a balance patch or some kind of patch, increase the audio a little bit, since that isn't relevant for multiplayer, I imagine. I don't know how annoying it was for other players, but I was perfectly fine with an Armada 1. But that's a wrap. That's a game there. I just got to actually get these things to start killing their target. I don't think I have the firepower to actually kill this thing. So let's just preserve our frigates and grab the points. And all the while... Oh god, torpedoes. Ah, I'm about to kill my own frigates. What would be funny is if this frigate flies into my torpedo. That would be the ultimate redemption story there. For that, at least that missed. But this is a win outside that, and you are just going to waddle off into space. I could kill you for more points, but let's just grab the points and kill off this last ship. No, my opponent just could see it. That felt pretty good, though, I gotta say. Even with the commentary kind of partially distracting me and diverting my attention, that felt pretty damn solid. Even when my opponent had a handful of frigates to kind of spot for me. Alas, the first two were like complete whiffs. They never detect anything, which is probably a blessing for me, since it makes diving in there and getting aggressive a lot more tenuous if I'm already revealed, which is part of the reason when I was playing my Adeptus Mechanicus video why I had my frigates so far away to look for the early reveal. Since I had such range, especially with my Arc Mechanicus's extended range on his weapons, that is the ultimate way to intimidate any Eldar, let alone the Drukhari, if you're doing damage to them or shooting at them well before they even get a chance to fire back. Alright, we're going to be facing off against Chaos, and normally Eldar would be really good against Chaos, mainly because of the value the Hollow Field has for them, just negating any lance and macro cannons they have at range. But in the case of Drukhari, the lances are probably the worst weapon for me to deal with, since every single time they're going to do full damage, they're always going to hit, so even my best evasive maneuvers aren't even going to dodge any of them. The macro cannons I could deal with, but if my opponent has heavy lances and knows how to preserve his fleet... Nope, apparently I've been recognized. I'm assuming that's Y means YouTube. I'm assuming, anyway. I can only guess at this point. So let's hope that doesn't intimidate our adversary. I would like to try and give a good show, or good match in general. Well, I hate to ruin what might happen here, since if it's his first actual match there, this could be problematic. I could try and make this entertaining. The idea is to demonstrate, well, I kind of already demonstrate a little bit of how the Shadow Field works. It's the frigates that are most problematic more often than not, which is why I'm making an effort to try and shoot them down. Now, I lost my train of thought a little bit because I'm a conflict of interest right now to kind of break this poor fella's heart there. It may be that way, but it could still be good. It could still be interesting. The strategy is still the same. I'm going to try and avoid getting super aggressive because that is really dangerous. Outside of my frigate spotting something, that could be useful in this regard. Since I have such ridiculous range currently on my battleship with the lock-on and extended, was it the upgrade to extend its range? Yeah, this thing is basically shooting as far as possible, almost. Let's see how this goes. I wish my adversary luck. I'll try not... Well, let's see. 3 ships. So we have a good handful of frigates, maybe light cruisers and solid running, or we're dealing with a handful of battleships, which would be interesting. It would be even worse if they're desolators. Is it desolators or despoilers? We're going through this phase again where I can't quite remember which battleship is which that has the carriers, goddammit. And it's going to be important to know that to an extent. Otherwise, we do have a frigate. I'm not seeing any fighters being launched just yet. And I will take a little bit of damage. This could be problematic just trying to grab this point, mind you. If my opponent does have lances, I'm going to be taking full fire for the entire duration of the cap. So I need to be ready for that. This might get a little bit awkward. If I boosted earlier I might have had enough time to grab this safely. At least with 2 frigates, I'll cap relatively quickly. But I'm going to have the 3 points, so that's going to at least make me fairly comfortable as far as playing defensively and just biding my time. Alright, no lances, no lances. Okay, there's a lance. That could mean anything in all seriousness, though. So it's pretty much every single Chaos ship has a lance on them. I would be more intimidated if there's like 20 lances coming at me all of a sudden. They could potentially kill one of these frigates before I cap the point. I don't know if Lance Chaos is like the main fleet composition I want to go in Armada 2, but it was the most prevalent fleet comp to go for in Armada 1 at least. Since it was really tricky to utilize the other ones, which was the carrier fleet. Since it's so the amount of time you had to just get behind other fleets and how quickly the Chaos fighters and bombers would get shot down rather, made them not very practical. Alright. Let's lock on. Get these things hit out to safety and just deal with our frigate and they are carriers. This is going to be tricky for my bombers or torpedoes. But if I could kill these things, that would probably be pretty good. Just kill the dang frigate. That's all I want. And then just get out of vision. Ideally, get these frigates moving as well, because that's what my carrier friend is kind of going after, I think. I'm going to take a little bit of damage, but I'll get out of vision relatively quick. Hell, I'm even shooting down some of these fighters too, so that will help speed that process quickly. There we go. We're hitting. We have all their ships spotted at least, so that's a benefit. I missed with the scanner earlier, but let's see. What do we have? Grand Cruiser. I think you're a top priority. You're also the flagship, mind you. And 2, what is it? Not Hades. Stigs. There's Stigs. 2 Stigs to kind of worry about for the carrier front. And hell, convenient positioning for these frigates. I will happily shoot these down. This Shadowfield's going to be a bit problematic. I'm going to boost on out of that. It's kind of warranted, and I would have liked a critical hit as some kind of fire assault. That would have been nice. To at least guarantee a kill on that one frigate. As it stands, it's going to live, and I've been spotted either way. Alright, let's change our targets. Watch for the frigate. Or not the frigate, but watch for the bombers. Which are coming right now. And figure out what they're going after. Okay, let's just turn this around. 3 seconds. I'm going to take a lot of damage here. No, that's the one thing I dislike about the finicky mouse control when you're trying to get the move order so quickly. And this is why I kind of spread out my fleet too, because now that I'm so cramped with my entirety of my roster over here that I actually can't turn around and engage the best. It's a bit problematic in this situation, but my opponent's leaving me an opportunity to turn around. So long as there's no fighters, this will hurt. Now, is that Stig gone? 1 Stig down. Yeah, I'm taking a lot of damage from this though, so I need to commit to this engagement, I think, and kill stuff quickly. Especially now that my false maneuver's gone. So long as they go after my battleship, I'm fine, because that has the most health right now. Yeah, this is probably not a good engagement for me. I would have loved to have most of my ships there available. And that was not what I wanted either. But torpedoes might hit? Nope. I do get a complete dodge, though, on this fleet. And he just launched fighters, and they're fighters that aren't going after my cruiser here, or battleship, which is about to unload a very painful salvo. This is a bad engagement for me. It's a good demonstration on how things could go wrong. And oh god, I want a torpedo run. You're not going to let me have it. I don't think these torpedoes are going to hit. Yeah, it was close. This is a good demonstration how things can go wrong there against, like, especially a mobile opponent too, in all honesty. Since that's why I spread out my fleet as I did in the first match. Is that way it allows me, when one of my fleets is running away, it allows me to just attack with another squadron. And it's really useful in that regard too. Because as you can see, when I only have one cruiser that can backstab them, it's not very intimidating, is it now? Yeah. Can I torpedo this thing some more? If I could kill the Grand Cruiser, their fleet might just break. I have rally. That's going to be useful in this regard. And I don't think I'm going to hit with the torpedoes I want. This is way too close, potentially. Okay, this may have just turned around for me. I have to be mindful of my own ships there, but with that ship gone, I basically just turned it around immediately. And I have my Dark Matter cannon about to come back up. So I want to kill off this light cruiser, ideally. And then we'll deal with the Stig afterwards, which I'm hoping burnt a lot of its assault carriers and bombers. That was tense. That is not the situation I want. In all seriousness, I did not want to be put in that situation. It was really damn awkward, and I should have lost that. I'm just thankful my opponents launched a handful of fighters, because those bombers could have been scary. I don't know about assault ships, mind you. And I'm still trying to figure out if those are bombers or assault ships right there, mind you, but that is all but victory right now. It's a question, yeah, there's still frigates around. I like to say that was a close one for him, and it's a good demonstration. I want to say that you gotta be very careful if your opponent's very tenacious and aggressive. Like I said, having your fleet clumped up like that means you're not really able to do, well... Well, it is the faction he chose, so it is kind of appropriate, isn't it? I would argue anyway. So, he did Slanesh, Nurgle, or whichever god he worships is just there. Now, this could still get ugly. It's going to be a bit slow until I kill that frigate. I'm assuming this may be the last one, and it doesn't quite have the firepower. Oh, he just conceded. I applaud him for not trying to drag it out, because it was still tenuous, since I would have to spread up my fleet, and I didn't know how many frigates he had left. But that was all but the worst case situation for me there, I'm not gonna lie. The first match is a demonstration on how things can go well with your fleet spread out, but more often than not you're going to encounter Drukhari that are clumped up like that, and that can feel really awkward for the Drukhari trying to do damage. Since once I'm in point blank range, you saw I had no real window to actually turn around, unless my Wraithbone, or no, not my Wraithbone shift, but my Falls maneuver came back up, and then that would be almost a suicidal run unless I know I'm not going to get rammed by everything, or get murdered by everything if it was like Imperial Navy or even Tyrannus for that matter.